Hi, super friends. Welcome to the rabbit hole that we call Supernormal,
where we delve into all the parapop culture topics that you love.
So throw on that aluminum foil hat, get the popcorn ready, and make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification to let you know when new episodes of Supernormal drop.
Sit back, listen with an open mind.
Enjoy the show.
Hey, love and light, Matt. Love and light, Megan.
Kiss my ass, Dana.
May the force be with you, Dana.
You know how I like to raise the vibes?
Yes. That's
we need to really raise the vibes. That means two.
Don't be a hater.
Yeah.
You guys are so negative.
No, that's me. I claim that.
I can't do this low vibe energy in here.
When you guys bury me
no.
and you put the graveyard stone out, I just wanted to say like evil bitch, and then just a middle finger on my gravestone. Can you do that for me? Can you promise that? Can we will it?
If you want.
Okay, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
That's
We're here to
fine.
raise the vibration and not have these negative vibes.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I want my gravestone to say, "Ow, you're stepping on me." So when people like come to say hi to me, it's just like a shocker to them. They're like, "Oh."
Ooh, mine's going to say... Megan has no idea what's going on.
Just go with it, Megan. It's called banter.
I have a burp coming. I'm just letting it process.
Oh, that's what it is. She's not thinking about what you're saying. She's thinking about her burp.
Like, oh, it's coming.
Veronica's making an appearance. Please hold on.
Veronica has something that she would like to say.
Yeah.
Hey, I see you. Mathew.
Speaking
Mathew.
Veronica.
There's our girl.
Oh, I hope that comes out like that. I hope when I burp, it does sound like that.
You should try it. You should just like release, and then when it comes up, you're just spiritual purposes.
All right. Well, should we actually talk about something?
Yeah, let's go.
No. I mean, we're going to talk about spiritual bypassing. Yeah. I mean, this is feeling very like, do you remember back in the day where there was like, okay, guys, there's this separation happening in our world, and either you're going to be part of the 3D or the 5D.
Oh, yeah.
That's
it's happening again. Oh, yeah. But it's like resurging. Like I thought that went away and it started happening again. And they're like, guys, there's like this new thing that's happening. And I was like, no. Like I remember when I kind of started having my own spiritual awakening in 2016. And that was all the buzz of like, okay, guys, everybody's in like 3D and there's some people that are in like 4D, but most people are moving on to 5D. And there's going to be this separation, and either you're going to be left in 3D or you're going to be up ascending into 5D. And I was like, am I going to be the one? I don't know if I feel like I'm vibrating high enough, but I'm not sure. And then I was like freaking out. And this was in 2016 before I started developing, and I started having a curiosity about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was literally scrolling yesterday and I was like, oh shit, all this shit's coming back around. And maybe it never went away, but people are like saying this shit all over again. And they're like, you have to be in this higher vibration to hit 5D. And I was like, oh, baby, no. Oh, baby, no.
Yeah, that's not going to happen until you die. That's when that happens. Do we have moments of going into like altered states of consciousness where we're aware of more? Yes. But we're physical. We're physical until we die. And then we're in a higher vibration, a different plane of existence. Not here. You wouldn't be physical anymore. That's not, it's just repackaged Christianity. You know, that it's just, what is that? The revelation. And, the whole new earth, yes. Do I want to see the world become a new earth of a better place for everybody? Absolutely. Do I think that that is going to come through ignoring the human experience and the pain of reality, and through not actually making real tangible change here? No, I don't, because that's not how things work here.
Mhm.
Hmm. That's like
So,
wishing for sugar-free ho-hos. It's not gonna
there
happen.
are some pretty decent replacements for a lot of goodies out there, I have to say. But yeah, there's nothing quite like the real thing sometimes, is there?
Hmm. I have to agree with you. I think that, I mean, every time, okay, it's stupid. I just got to get it out of my head because it's here. But like, when they say like 5D and 3D, I think of Doritos. Like every time they to say it, I just think of like Doritos, like the flat Doritos, and then the puffy Doritos, because like the puffy
Mm,
Dorito
mm.
3Ds. But really, I just think of that person that's standing on the corner being like, "The end is coming. The end is
Yeah.
coming," and they're just announcing it. But to me, it feels like almost like power lost when we listen to those people, because they never give you like the direct answer of how to ascend. It's just being like, raise your vibration, raise your vibration. Oh, you got to do raise your, and there's no like, how do you do that? There's no solution and empowerment. So it just kind of leads you to go back to them for like a codependency issue. And then you're dependent on them to tell you when you're high vibe enough for, or not.
Well, from what I hear, it's
Hmm.
the, having to always be in a loving, joyful, happy vibration all the time, which is not realistic, really, for, like, I would say 99.9% of people ever. Um, I think even people that meditate all the time probably still have moments of not being in that space.
Hmm.
And so for one, it's unrealistic. For two, like I'm saying, like denying a part of you, denying the part of the human experience, which is when we have sadness or when we have anger or when we have something that they consider low vibrational. um, we're not meant to be ignoring that. We're meant to be actually learning from that and letting those things arise so we can let them go through and use them, right? Like anger moves us, right? And helps us in certain ways. It's how you use it that matters, right? We can use things that can hurt people with our anger or what our sadness or whatever, or we can see it for what it is, understand it, learn through it, and move beyond it, right? And do positive things from those things. So it's really a matter of like perspective and how you use things. And I don't ever think it's helpful to pretend like a part of us doesn't exist or pretend like we don't feel what we do. Though I do think there's a helpful thing of having a positive mindset around those things. It helps us get out of those things more quickly, but we're not always meant to try to speed up things. Like sometimes it's just meant to be what it is, like grief, right? You can't like,
Mhm.
there's no amount of time necessarily that you can be like, okay, that's when it's supposed to be done. And now you're supposed to be high vibrational again. And you're supposed to be happy and you're supposed to be this. Like, that's just not realistic.
Hmm. So it's like gentle parenting of spirituality, where you're like, Lucy, did you color on the walls? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, I'd be mad. I'd be mad.
okay, as a parent, as an actual parent, I
Hmm.
can say that gentle parenting does work. It's
It
just
does.
it's a matter of you still have accountability, right? Like, so what you're missing
Hmm.
here is the piece of accountability and being able to say, this is our expectation in this household of how we act and what we don't do. And this is how a follow through of, why we don't do this or do that. And this is how we're going to handle that, whatever that may be for you. It doesn't have to be yelling, it doesn't have to be violent, it doesn't have to be shaming, right? For a child to understand something.
Have you ever gotten like really angry with your kids,
Yes.
like to the point where you yelled a little bit?
I have
It's
there's definitely have been moments, but I always will stop myself and apologize because that's my accountability. That's my responsibility as a parent, as an adult, especially to
uh,
show the way I want them to act, right? And that's
yeah.
not through me doing those things. So my triggers, my issues are my own. I'm not going to
Hmm.
blame my kids for that. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, that makes
So it's the
100%
same
sense.
idea here, I think.
Yeah.
I know we went a slightly different direction that I was not expecting.
I'm You know what? I know I'm actually understanding it a little bit better by you
Yeah.
explaining it in a tangible way that's realistic for me rather than a woo-woo word.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, I think that's important, right? It's nuance. We have to understand things and have nuance to things. There's a lot of generalization, a lot of words thrown around, hot topic words and things that people don't understand and they just repeat over and over again because they think it's some sort of idealistic version of how we're supposed to be instead of just accepting how you are.
Well,
Mhm.
I think taking that word vibration, that can mean a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm like, you're not high vibration enough, is it my energy that's not high vibration? Is it my attitude that's not high vibration? Like, what is not high vibration? Is it like what I'm saying and how I'm saying it? And I think that leaves a lot of room in the spiritual community for interpretations on what the meanings of words are. And I think that's
Mhm.
where it gets confusing, right? So, like the word like timeline shifting and timeline jumping is just to me, and this is just to me how I'm understanding it, making a different decision, right?
Mhm.
And so it can get
Mhm.
really confusing. So I think like vibration and saying you're not high vibe enough can essentially put somebody at a disadvantage if they don't know the context of the word. So I think your gentle parenting explanation really helped me.
Good.
Mhm.
I'm so glad. I'm so
Hmm.
glad
Well,
for that.
it's funny because we
Yeah.
we say high vibe and automatically we want to go to high vibe means good, right?
Right.
Hmm.
Exactly.
High vibe equals good thing. So
Yeah.
low vibe must mean bad.
Right.
And I know Megan, you were talking about grief and a lot
Mhm.
of other things and anger. Low low vibe, like anger doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Right.
Anger, like you said, it can be utilized in positive ways.
Yeah.
Anger is the change maker that moves societies, that changes things, that brings attention to what needs to be changed in our lives. Uncomfortability moves us to change things that we need to change in our life. I've always said when my kids were little, I described it to my kids like if we went to Disneyland every single day, it wouldn't be special. It wouldn't be
Mhm.
fun. It wouldn't be great every day. Like it would lose its spice. It would lose its beautifulness, right?
Mhm.
We live in a world of contrast, and some of
Right.
that is like being and experiencing all of the emotions, experiencing frustration, experiencing anger, experiencing joy, experiencing the full range of it, and not just being like, well, if it's not this one emotion, then I'm not acknowledging it.
Right.
And from a psychology background, which I have a BA in psychology, it's very unhealthy
Yeah.
to
It really
ignore
is.
all of the other emotions. And Lord, let me tell you how much therapy I've had to do to acknowledge the anger when it comes up for me because I was like, this is bad. We
Right.
don't get angry. And so for me to acknowledge when I feel angry and acknowledge it and give words to it, and I feel like to your point, Megan, we have an opportunity when we are angry. It's almost like I think about fire. Like we can use fire to burn or we can use fire to warm, right?
Right.
We can use fire to propel. So, how do you use that fire within you? Fire isn't bad, it's how we
Mhm.
use the fire.
Exactly.
So, fire can mean change, fire can mean movement. So, how do you use the fire? So, low
Mhm.
vibration doesn't necessarily mean bad.
No, it doesn't at
And
all. Like,
no,
well, okay, here's a really good example I think people can understand, right? When we hear the scale of music, let's say you hear a piano key, if you hear a really high sound or a very low resonant sound, do you go, that's a good sound and that's a bad sound? No, you do not. You just go, that is a sound. And all of it works together to have a melody or a harmony, right? And so we're creating with these different vibrations, we're creating with these different frequencies, including feelings, emotions, right? That's a part of being creative as a human being. That's why we're here, in my opinion, is to have this experience through the
Hmm.
contrast, through the difference of just coming from a place where we can only be in a state of love, right? To here where we get to have an ego with all of the range of emotions, right? So we have that whole piano, all those keys on the piano to play, and we get that with ourselves too. And when we don't have that, when we take away some of that, that's not going to be as beautiful as a symphony as it could have been, right? It's a much more
Hmm.
limited song we can play within our field of experience.
100%. I was
Yeah.
thinking about within this realm of being able to experience each vibration on the piano or each emotion or each thing in our lives, because we are meant to be human here in this world. And
Mhm.
I think in the spiritual community, or as we start to discover our spiritual selves or start to integrate spiritual concepts into our lives, we want to do this escapism, and we want to ascend to 5D. We want to jump up. We want to exist up here, but we're really meant to be here. And sometimes I feel like the most spiritual thing that we can do is be here and in the present and just be, and
Mhm.
just be human. Like there's a lot of spirituality in the human condition and being human and living life and having
Mhm.
relationships and smiling at one another and helping a neighbor, and that's a good smile, Megan. But being present with,
Yeah.
listening to one another, being, if you came to me, Matt, and said, I feel really sad today about this, being present and holding space for your sadness and not judging it and saying, well, I'm uncomfortable with your sadness, so I'm not going to listen to it.
Because
I
it's
think
low
that's
vibrational.
it's too low
Yeah.
vibrational to listen to your
Yeah.
sadness today. I think that that is also being very spiritual. And I think we kind of should talk about, like, what does it mean to be spiritual? Because I think we
Mhm.
throw
Yeah.
that word around a lot. Like, what is it? Do you need to be in the 5D or have access to the 5D to be spiritual?
I looked up the definition literally because that term was being thrown around in ways that I
Hmm.
think was either being misunderstood or being used in ways that I don't know. But I looked it up. It's just basically a knowing that there is more than yourself, like that there is a connection that is more than yourself. That's a divine connection. I think that we can also say everyone is technically spiritual because you can't escape being a spirit, being consciousness, even if you are in denial or not awakened to it, right? Like
Hmm.
you can't escape what you are. You are that already. It's just a matter of knowing that, right? And so there's a more of a consciousness. I guess we would call it a raising of consciousness to know that, right? To be in that connection, to know how to receive it, right? To know how to go to it and to be aware of it. And so I think that sort of nuance there, and like nuance in general just needs to be brought into all things. But I think that needs to be understood for sure.
I think of people when they call themselves spiritual, from my experience on all the spiritual people that I've encountered, there's this air about them that they're all knowing, right? When certain people use the word spiritual, or they're like, I am a master of this because I'm a leader and I have a TikTok account and I do
Mhm.
readings, so I am the most spiritualist person ever.
Mhm.
But I really like what you said in the definition is awareness of others, right? That we have a connection, but it's being aware beyond yourself, right? I know for me, I think a little bit of being spiritual is also having compassion for other people, because you are connected to them, and like
Mhm.
protecting other people and doing the things that essentially lead by example, but also lead through your words, right? And I
Mhm.
think that's what makes a really good person spiritual, is that they just don't practice it, they don't study it, and it's not like an everyday occurrence. I think that we can stumble because we're human and we make mistakes, but it's doing your best every day to go beyond and make the world a better place for people altogether, right? So I think there's a difference between, in my opinion, what spiritual is and what spiritual actually is.
Yeah.
And then to me, I feel like a lot of people. I was talking to Dana the other day, and she came up and it clicked. Where I'm like, P, you can think you're spiritual, but I think sometimes when our ego gets in the way, you're not as spiritual as you think you are, in my definition. And I think
Mhm.
it's just kind of like aligning back to, how can I be in service of others? How can I be in connection with that divine source that's going to affect people in a positive way, or affect my soul in a positive way?
Yeah. I think there's lots of people that would never identify themselves as spiritual that are
Hmm.
very spiritual, that live their life very spiritually and
Yeah.
connected to others and to nature and are kind and compassionate people. And I think that the more we embody that, I think the more we're going to also feel better, and the more we have a positive impact on other people. I don't know.
Hmm.
I think that sometimes people that call themselves spiritual and then sort of get lost in the ego trap, or like build a spirit, like a spiritual ego in some
Mm.
way. They forget to be constantly questioning themselves, or constantly be questioning just in general. And they forget how to use critical thinking, and they
Hmm.
forget how to truly connect. It's almost like they only want to connect to certain people because of what their idea of what they think spiritual is.
I think a really amazing example of a person that I've encountered that's super spiritual, and that I don't think goes around and says they're spiritual. I haven't really had much interaction with them. Would be like Eileen Davies.
Mm.
When you're just kind of around her, you feel it radiate off of her. Just that like
Mhm.
Yeah.
understanding and kindness and mindfulness and exploration. Because I do know that she studies other religions and she
Hmm.
dabbles to understand people's perspectives. But you just kind of feel it as she walks in the room. She
Yeah.
radiates it, and
She
it
does.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean that she doesn't have a bad day, and doesn't mean
Right.
that she probably
She's
doesn't
human,
hit her
right? Like
Mhm.
foot and
she's
go
human.
fuck.
Yeah.
But I think that there's this understanding for knowledge that's more than what is currently here, but also a kindness and compassion to hear other people
Yeah.
and
I
listen.
definitely agree. She
Hmm.
sits to do meta every day, from what at least from what I know. I don't know if she still does, but she has in the past.
What is meta?
Which meta is a meditation where you are concentrating on love for yourself, love for others, and love for the earth. And so you're feeling that love, and you're embodying that, and you're emanating that out into the world. And so it's a concentration on presence and love, and really cultivating that connection.
Job well done. I felt it, girl.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
a beautiful soul for sure.
You
Hmm.
can feel that. You can feel it. And you can feel the authenticity,
Hmm.
which that just kind of flew out. I didn't plan on saying the word authenticity, but I think that's a key feature of what we look for in
Hmm.
somebody who is, I guess, uh, everything is kind of flowing. Maybe this is spirit led. Thank you. Of like what is a true spiritual leader, or somebody that we should maybe look up to. And that's, we kind of gone from like everybody is spiritual, but like how do we know who is somebody authentic in their spiritual practice, or is on the right path within their spiritual practice, or
Hmm.
is where they should be in their spiritual path. And for
Mm.
me, it's this air of authenticity,
Same.
that
You can
they
feel it.
are just
Yeah.
exactly who they are. Behind closed doors, they are exactly who they are. They just are who they are. They own their mistakes. They understand their humanness within, and how they interact with the spirit side of themselves. And that for me is one of the biggest parts of all of this. It's that balance. Because I know you mentioned
Yeah.
ego, Megan, but it's this awareness. I always say I'm a forever student,
Hmm.
because I always want to have a very flexible mind, not only of the spirit world, but of the human condition, of looking at all sides of the fence, of like,
Mhm.
if you're presenting something to me and I disagree with you, I want to hear your argument. I may not agree with you at the end of it, but I want
Right.
to have an open mind and an open heart. And maybe at the end of the day we disagree, but I want to have an open mind and an open heart.
Hmm.
And I really think that's part of the conversation. If,
Yeah.
is can we have open conversations? Can we have dialogue? Can you feel safe within my space? I think those are all things that are really key to somebody who is on a spiritual path. I think that's really important.
I agree with you. I
Yeah.
also think that you can smell it a mile away when somebody's not, and trusting your gut. And I think that's one thing that like our intuition tells us a lot of stuff. And I think that sometimes people can come across of like, yeah, you can smile and walk around and be like, love and light, love and light, love and light, but be the nastiest person. And I think that essentially that mask can get heavy for so long and you'll start to see the cracks, but trust your gut around those people, right? Trust but validate, and then validate but trust is kind of my motto, because I think that's really important when you're trying to find a spiritual teacher, a spiritual mentor, or anything like that. Is just like, what does your body feel when you're around them? Do you feel a disconnect? I don't know. I'm like huge. Like I love
Yeah.
people that will come up and be like, I love you, but I'll fucking kill you. Right. I respect those people that are just like very straight and upfront of being like, I am a full spectrum of human emotion and you're going to see all of it, versus the people that come up to you with a smile on your face. Cause those people I have to worry about, because I'm like, it's like a postal worker. Are you going to snap on me one day?
I think that there is something to be said about like-minded people find like-minded people, if that makes
Mm,
sense. So I think that
mhm,
there's a camaraderie between, people of a certain kind in a certain way, right? Like, so I would say the people that are the most authentic typically are geared toward wanting to find each other because they feel comfortable in that space of being authentic, because they have accepted the darker shadow parts of themselves. They've
mhm,
accepted they are a full person that makes mistakes and that isn't going to be perfect, and is and just want to show up with their heart, with their authenticity, and be who they are in the world. And I think that there's a place for everybody, right? So I think that there's people that have no concept of consciousness and don't realize their spirit and beyond that, and they have a place. And there's people that do recognize they have consciousness and yet have not come to a place of full acceptance of those things, and learning how to heal traumas and to love those parts of themselves, right? And so there's a spectrum across the world. And so like-minded people will find like-minded people, right? So I think that that's a part of it. So even if there are teachers that out there, and there are, who are, let's say, one of the category of what I'm referring to, uh, there's a place for the people that find them, right? For them to learn from them. And once they get to a certain place with that teacher, they move on to find another teacher that's beyond that place, right? So it's kind of like everything in this world has a place. We don't always have to like it. We don't always have
mhm,
to agree with it. We don't always have to see the value, even though there may be one, right?
mm.
But there's, I mean, think about nature, right? Think about nature. There's some little asshole bugs out there doing all sorts of nasty things, right? And then there's
Buggers.
really cute ones that we do like and we do accept, right? We love butterflies, we love dragonflies, we love ladybugs, right? Those are the ones we're like, yes, we like those ones. We will take those as signs. But if you show me a wasp, or you show me like a red ant, I don't want those fuckers, right? Do you know
That
what I'm
wasn't
saying?
very
There's a
spiritual of you.
yeah. But do you see my point? Is that
Yeah.
Mhm.
there's a place for everything. There's a place for everything in this world, and that is what nature also shows us, right? There's seasons. There's a place for all the different flowers. They're all beautiful. They don't compare one another. They're just there. They just exist. They just are. All of nature just is. And yet there's also eating each other, and they have an ecosystem that relies on one another, right? And it's just a part of reality here.
I'm going to take it back. I think I have to agree with you. I take my stance back, because I do think that sometimes bad teachers or bad mentors can come into your life to teach you a lesson. And I think that, like, looking back at my development, I had a teacher that was, doing some fear-based stuff. But if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have had that experience to know it was right for me. So thank you
Right.
so much.
Contrast. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing
Hmm.
we don't like shows us a thing we do like, right? The thing we do like shows us a thing we don't like. And that's the beauty of being on earth, is we have that full black, white, yin yang. And then once we find the middle ground, once we find the gray area, the little part in between that has a little bit of each on each side of the yin yang, right? So in the black part, there's a little tiny dot of white. On the white part, there's a little tiny dot of black. Once we see that, we can have understanding. Once we see that and understand that that's a part of this reality, and we can accept that, then things can start to change.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought you said ding dong. It took
Dude,
me a
me
Ding
second.
too. The
dong.
whole time I was thinking of a dong, like black, and she's
You
like
guys,
black dong.
Yeah, I was
that's
like, it took me a second, but you said yin
wow.
yang, right? That's the black and
Yin
white.
yang,
Yin,
yin
yin
yang, or
yang.
yin
Okay,
yang, depending on
thank
how
you,
you pronounce it.
thank you.
But yes, the balance,
Hmm.
of Eastern philosophy there.
You know,
But
you
yeah,
can say, Matt, this is the reason why we can't have nice things. Like that's
no, it's
completely
okay.
fine.
If you
No,
guys have
it's, I
dick
was
on the
like,
brain, I
I was
can't. That's fine.
trying to like,
Yeah,
I was not going to say it out loud, but that was what was in my head. And Matt said it. And then I
yeah.
You know,
agreed.
Well, we can make a new version of, we could take one of those, and we can make it work,
so
whatever works for you, as long as it makes sense to you. That's what I'm here
but
for.
it'll look
Mm-hmm.
like an 11, and that's an angel number, so it'll work for me.
Yeah. So
High
therefore, yeah,
vibes.
high vibes, high vibes. That's so funny because, like, here's the thing: this reality, is all, in my opinion, made of consciousness. Everything here is.
I agree.
And so it's always interacting with us in some way. And whether or not you see that is your choice. And that's the cool thing about spirit, is that it never pushes, it never makes you do anything. It's always up to your consciousness and your ability to perceive it.
Hmm. Has spirit showed you like how we're connected in like a visual?
Mm, like
Either of
us,
you? Yeah.
like a us all connected. I
Hmm.
see it like as a tapestry.
Mm.
So like each
Like
of
the
us
thing
has a
behind Dana?
thread. Like each of us has its own unique, beautiful thread is a part of the tapestry that's being
Mhm.
created here. That's constantly changing and growing. It's this never ending, beautiful tapestry that we're all a part of. We're all, or I also see it as like we're a part of a big soup, right? Like we're one of the veggies in the big soup, but we're in a pot of soup together, and we're all make up this soup.
Dana's a
I've
potato.
seen it as a spider web. And so when like something hits a spider web in a certain way,
Yeah,
it affects everything else
vibrates
on the spider
across.
web, right?
Yeah.
We feel it everywhere else.
I see it as like a neuron. Like it's almost like when you were to pull back and like look at DNA and how it's
Mm.
connected. You know what I mean? That it's like
Mm-hmm,
all
mm-hmm. The
connected. It
strand of
all
the, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the spiral.
it all works together. But no,
Mm-hmm,
almost like little nerve endings, like the nervous
mm-hmm,
system.
mm-hmm,
And when one thing happens, you feel it somewhere else, but it's
mm-hmm,
all ever growing and it just rotates. And I think that all together is the body of the divine, even the earth. So
mm-hmm.
essentially, we're just the nerve endings for source.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is going to go like, not to bring up a whole nother bag of worms or can of worms, whatever, or whatever kind of receptacle of worms that you would like to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But like soul contracts, soul, like soul connection, soul family.
Twin flames.
No, I don't want to go into twin
Sorry,
flames,
I just wanted
but
to throw a terminology
but
out.
but it comes into that too, because everybody expects that like our soulmate or whatever is, or somebody who we have a soul connection with, is going to be a positive connection. But some of
Might
the
not be.
people that are
Yeah.
meant to come into our lives that have a soul connection can actually be that contrast person for
Yep.
us.
Mm-hmm.
That really is somebody that is a difficult person that pushes us in a difficult way into a direction where we really need to go.
Yep.
And we don't acknowledge that a lot. We always are looking for like, oh, the love of my life or my soul family or my best friend. But sometimes those soul connections are the people that are the pains in the ass
Yep.
in
Mm-hmm.
our life.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Thanks, Brenda.
Well, I think there's a lot of romanticizing spirituality, and I think that's also an issue. You know what I mean? Like, I know you love Twilight, Megan.
Yeah.
You shut
Well,
your dirty mouth right now. But I think like when we look at Twilight, or we look at relationships, we look at this yearning to feel that romantic draw to it, right? Like we want that spice, that fire, because we want to feel special. We want to be wanted sometimes, but we also want to be like hard to get a little bit. You know what I mean? Like
well,
it's just
there's a
romanticizing.
reason for this, though. The
Correct.
reason, it's because a lot of people come into spirituality looking to be healed from some kind of trauma, some sort of pain, and that's
Yes.
why where the escapism comes in, because they realize how good it feels to go within and to meditate and to feel that love of spirit, and so they just want to constantly be feeling that and be kind of in that space. But then they forget that we're also here. This is a gift to be here and have this experience and to actually be in the physical body, moving through the world and
Mm-hmm.
manifesting into the world through our connection to spirit, right? And so that's where that comes in, is that they don't have the tools and the know-how of healing and to understand and incorporate those parts of themselves yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was going more in the direction of like using buzzwords to romanticize to get people to drawn into it, and
Oh,
then
and I'm
not.
going for the meat of the
You're
potato.
going to the
Yeah, I'm
meat, but
going
I
to
think
the,
it's
yeah.
more like pulling people in, right? Like using the word soul family, soul contract, and all that stuff, because then it adds a mystery to it. But I think it's really just
Mm.
kind of understanding. You know what? I'm going to use this example, Megan, because me and you agreed on this. The portal, like if you get a tattoo with your best friend, you open up a portal, and we're like,
Oh yeah,
dude, that's
no.
fucking memories, dude. You're having memories of an attachment to something that you shared at a moment with somebody. It's like,
So explain that, because there's people that are
okay,
not going to know what you're
so
talking about.
there was a video on TikTok where a lady was like, "Do not get a tattoo." I'm doing the voice just to differentiate mine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Don't get a tattoo with your best friend, or you're going to open a portal. and
Matt
she
and
just
I fucked up.
yeah,
We opened a
oops.
portal in Denver like 3 years ago.
Err.
Our bad.
Yeah, but now I'm thinking like Doctor Strange portal where they put their hands through it and they touch themselves. You know what I'm talking about on the TikTok thing? But
I didn't
anyways,
Wow,
touch
I
myself when
haven't
we
seen
got
that one.
tattoos.
that's what I do to my tattoo. When I want to visit Dana, I put my head through the tattoo and I'm like,
My
bitch.
And you touch
my
yourself?
tattoo is
Wow.
like
Mhm.
here, and I've got to be
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
this.
but it's essentially memories.
Flexible. Flexible.
You create memories every day with people around you, and I
It's
think
okay, but here's the thing.
it's
Like any
frustrating.
connection you have with anyone, any relationship in any way you have, there's an energetic connection that is formed. That just is. It just is. That's how
That's
spirit communication works, is that we have energetic connection to people in our lives that we do things with, interact with, even
hmm
have brief interactions with. There is a connection there.
but that's what I'm
You don't need a
talking
tattoo for
about
that.
over romanticizing
Yeah.
things or making it
Well, they
super
make bullshit up.
special.
No, no, they just make up bullshit. There's no evidence of what they're talking about, right? At least I can talk
I
about
want a
what I'm
fucking
talking
portal to
about.
Dana.
Well, like, what is this idea of a portal anyway? Like, can they prove that? Like, at least if I'm talking about energy and connections, I can show that through mediumship. You know what I mean? Like,
hmm
they just say a bunch of bullshit stuff just for I don't know why.
All you need to do is talk in deep accent, and then everything is spiritual, right? So you get tattoo, you have portal to best friend. It's
Hey
great.
Megan, do you want to go get a tattoo so we can talk more often?
No.
Okay.
That's the only
You're
time
too
Megan
low
said no to a
vibrational.
tattoo.
Yeah. You're too low vibrational. I can't have it. I
Actually,
don't have space for that.
I'm a hateful bitch. If you're
Oh,
not
and
low
don't forget,
vibrational.
you're a mean girl and you're in a clique as well. So
Yeah.
let's not
Yeah.
forget
So,
those parts,
Click.
but
just in case.
but that's the thing with me too.
Yeah.
Like, so now that we're on this conversation, thanks, Garrett. Like, I think there's a difference that sometimes people can't handle authentic people,
No, I know.
right?
Yeah.
And that's uncomfortable for people. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make me bad or a mean girl or uncomfortable. It just means that I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. And regardless of how you feel, and maybe I'm inconsiderate.
There's still responsibility of your words.
Right,
You have to
right.
always remember that.
True,
That's,
but that doesn't make me bad. That just makes me like, hey, if I've hurt your feelings, we can have a conversation
yes.
and I can understand how you feel. You can't
Right.
just like label somebody you're low vibrational and I'm going to have nothing to do with you
No,
because
it's a cop out. It's a
correct,
cop out
correct.
for them not being able to have that kind of conversation.
Right, because I think like when you're having open and honest conversations and you're the type of person that's like black and white, that there needs to always be room to be like, let's have a conversation.
Well, if
Like,
they don't like you, they can just say I don't like you and just not have anything to do with you, and that's fair too.
and that's
Because
cool.
they have their choice to do that.
And that's cool. Yeah.
And that's okay. Honestly, I appreciate that. If you don't
Me
like
too.
me, don't have anything to do with me, please. I have no
Me
space in my
too.
life for you. Honestly, I'm just like, go do your thing. Like, I have no judgment of that. Like, I don't care. Like, either you like me, you don't like me. It makes no difference of who I am. I'm going to show up as I am, and I'm going to say what I need to say.
Mhm.
Your outside opinion doesn't, unless unless we have an actual personal relationship where like we have
Mhm.
a close relationship where like I'm going to listen and respect your opinion, where I'm going to reflect. I'll always reflect as I'm as a reflectful type of person. If a bunch of people start telling me the same thing, I'm going to listen and I'm going to reflect on that and see what's actually true. If someone close to me says, "Hey, what you said was hurtful to me," I'm going to listen to that because I respect them and I want to learn too. Like, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, Dana's not perfect, none of us are perfect. We recognize
Agreed.
that. And
Agreed.
so we're all growing as people. But if you don't give people the opportunity to at least have a conversation, again, you don't have to. Like, that's your choice.
Yeah.
But then that's just, just cut it off. Like, that's fine.
What's your boundary?
Yeah,
Mhm.
have boundaries, right? Have boundaries. It's totally fine. But just say so. Don't talk shit. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, if you can, you can. Just know people talk. Just remember that. The most fucked up people I've ever met are in the spiritual community. And I don't mean to be a
100%.
bitch to say that, but it's
Facts.
true. Yeah, because again, there's a lot of
Agreed.
people that come to the spiritual community who are in pain and who've gone through a lot of trauma, but they don't get the tools to do the healing, and they
Right.
go toward the bypassing stuff. And so they don't know how to process things, and so they go in little groups and they talk shit. And guess what? In those little groups, those people fucking talk to other people. And guess what we find out? So
Yeah.
FYI.
Everything always comes
FYI.
back around. But that's the thing that
Yeah.
I always say, it's hurt people trying to heal people hurting along the way.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that I have a rule, and I know you have a rule as well, that 90% of your spiritual development is you. It's like facing the things that you don't
Personal
like about
development
yourself.
is
Yeah,
huge.
especially
Yeah.
especially if you're a practitioner. right? To remove yourself to help other people so you're not involved in whatever it is that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing. And I think that's super important. But essentially, that is also you're healing along with people. But I think one misconception that we have with like especially mediumship is that the healing doesn't necessarily come from us personally. It comes from the spirit world, and we're just the vessel for it, so we don't need to do anything other than rely the message for the spirit world or be present and show up. That I know with mediumship for myself. I don't know if it's different for you, Megan, but essentially it's just conduit through whatever I'm saying and giving what I get and stepping out of the way for it to be possible. But it's not
Yeah.
my words
No,
trying
in
to
regards
heal
to
you.
mediumship, that's, yeah.
Correct. But like as far as like Reiki and all that stuff, I know nothing about that. So I'm going to stay in my pay grade. But essentially, it's like without me doing that self development and self growth or looking within or having friends call me out on my bullshit or being like get in therapy or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to move forward in my uncomfortability. And I can come in on my clients' readings and give my personal bias and my personal hurt in that, and it doesn't
Yeah.
make me a good it
Mhm.
doesn't make me a good healer.
Right. Yeah, that's part of development, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
is making sure that you're doing that kind of work, but also knowing when you are bringing yourself in. That's a really important key part of that development.
I always say have good friends that'll call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah.
Accountability. So I was going to
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
say accountability. So, you know, if we're going to talk about what makes you a positive, if we're going to say positive, if we're going to be say you're a high vibe, love and lights, real good spiritual
Which
person. I don't want to say that, but you know what I'm saying. It's having accountability,
Mm-hmm.
right?
mm-hmm.
And Megan, you spoke about that, and I don't want to dox our own conversation, but Megan and I were talking last night that one of the things that we love most about our friendship is we do have that friendship,
Mm-hmm.
that we have like a very open and honest, like we can say anything to each other friendship.
That's the kind of
That,
friends I have. That's it.
yeah.
You can't be friends with me. You can't be friends with Dana or Matt without that because it just isn't going to work.
Well, here's the deal, you guys are my standard. Do you know what I mean? Like when you find really healthy relationships with people that
Mm-hmm.
have done the work and that essentially are your standard, why are we accepting less from somebody else, right? Like,
Well, they
and I
may
understand,
not be there yet. So that's
yeah,
one thing to
right.
remember,
Well,
right?
but still, you don't need to like. Let's talk about like
Yeah.
polarizing opposites, right? Like you can hold
Sure.
space for somebody that's growing, but if somebody's
Yes,
treating
if
you
they're
like
willing to,
garbage,
yeah, no, if they're willing to grow, that means accountability, right? If they're
mm-hmm,
willing to hear you and say, hey, this rubbed me the wrong way or whatever, and they're willing to reflect and to go, oh, I never thought of it that way, or oh, I'll sit with that and see, what kind of changes I may need to make for myself or whatever, and apologize, right? And just sort
mm-hmm.
of like own that. That's one thing. If someone's not willing to do that or cannot yet, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, they don't meet your standard.
Yeah.
And to have those tough conversations. Tough conversations are not low vibe or like are not a
No,
bad thing.
they're
Like tough
needed.
conversations are really, really important, and having accountability within
Hmm.
those tough conversations of like, it might be uncomfortable. It might be triggering to hear somebody say, your words or your actions affected me in this way.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to sit with that for a moment
Hey,
and you
Megan,
have to process it.
I think it's
Yes.
time. I think it's time to have that conversation. Dana, we
Okay.
really want to have a tough conversation about your addiction to Taco Bell. It's really starting to affect us.
I
Yeah.
accept your addiction to Taco Bell. I have no judgment of it. It's your choice. It's your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Body. I believe in body autonomy and and choices, and judgment is okay and a part of living. Because we literally make judgments every like second of the day as we are going through our life,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's another part of spiritual
Well,
Yeah.
bypassing
you
of
haven't
like
been, yeah,
being
talk.
anti-judgment. Like, yeah, there can be negative judgments,
Mm-hmm.
sure,
Mhm.
but like judgment in general, like is happening consistently all the time.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
made a really good post about that today. You should
I
go to her
did.
TikTok and check it out. It's good.
Everybody go
Yeah.
support those videos. Go support those videos.
Yes.
Well, there's things that like diet, speaking of diet,
Hmm.
of like if you don't eat a vegan diet, you are low vibe. That is something we hear a lot. Or if you don't eat this or you eat that, and I think that that's really important to understand that that's somebody else's experience, and there are certain things that may work really well for somebody's body. So for somebody's specific body, that might work really well for them, but that doesn't mean it has to be your truth. And
Yeah.
finding out what works really well for your body is more important than listening to like, I have to eat this. Like if you were following my path, you would drink kombucha and eat Taco Bell and drink Diet Mountain Dew. I don't know that that's like the spiritual diet you all want to be on. If you were eating like Megan, you would eat cottage cheese and sushi.
I
Like
eat lots of protein.
Yeah.
Lots of
We're not going to talk about
protein.
what I eat.
And
Mm-mm.
Matt also
hamburgers
eats
and
lots of
hot
protein.
I put a lot of meat in my mouth, and I'm still a good medium.
But yeah, like, I think there's this is a bit about opinions, right? There's a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and their opinion sometimes they think is for everyone, whereas we need to learn to respect people's their experience and their own choices. And they may find through eating certain diets that they feel really good. They may find they feel really bad. They may find that they need some kind of specific whatever, right? Or they may find there's a place between, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I totally respect some mediums' ability to just have green drink all day. It's completely fine. Like I'm
To never
100%
chew
fine.
their food.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like if you want to drink your food through a straw, that's completely cool because that
First of
makes
all, he
them
does not
happy.
only drink that. I have to just say, he does not only drink that, and
I've seen him.
that's a medical protocol. I just
Yeah,
have to, I
I
have to
know.
stand up for my friend here.
I love him, and he knows it's a
Yeah,
joke. But Mr. Michael Mayo is the captain of green smoothies. Maybe we can actually
yeah.
get him to give us the
It's
recipe, and we can
very,
post
No,
first
it
of all,
it's
on it.
so
I
easy.
also
It's
have to
so
talk
good.
about, well, also this is like a medical protocol that actually has tangible proof of helping people with their autoimmune issues,
That's
healing them
awesome.
of things that are said to never be able to be healed,
That's
like
cool.
lupus and all sorts of other things. And that's also created by a doctor.
Can we ask him to put the recipe in the show notes?
It's so easy. No,
You can literally find it
Oh,
online.
okay. What is
It's
it
it's
called?
Dr. Gold
For the
something.
yeah. I'll put it in the show notes.
yeah.
I will. I always do it, and then I run out of frozen mango.
It's good actually. It's actually really good.
It's
It's very
I'm
good
scared.
for
delicious.
I'm
you.
scared of the
Yeah.
color. I'm scared of the
Yeah.
color.
Well,
Why? Because it's not McDonald's color.
Yeah.
maybe if you're a higher vibration, you would understand
That
that.
is true. That is true. That's true. I just feel like I'm drinking the Hulk's blood.
No, it's really good. It makes you feel really good too. It's
Does it
whole
taste good though?
foods. Yes, it
Yeah.
does. It has mango
And
in it
banana.
and all kinds. Yeah,
I
and
think it's
like
the kale that loses me. It has kale in it,
It
right?
doesn't have kale. It's like
it's
spinach
okay,
and
it's super
Oh,
greens.
spinach is good.
It's super
Spinach is good.
greens.
hmm
So
Mhm.
it's really good. But I do want to say that you have all that first, and then you do actually eat food, but it is vegan. But like whatever, I want to say this very clearly. Whatever your personal reasons for your choices of food, whether you are vegan or you're not vegan or whatever it is good. That's great. Like I just want to say that because you may have moral reasons why you're vegan or moral
Yep.
reasons of whatever. And I wanted to support that. And I just want to make that very clear to the audience. That
Yes,
there's-
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Sorry, Michael Mayo. I love you dearly.
I was not, and I was not poo-pooing veganism or anything like that.
I just, people they hear things and then they'll hear what they want to hear. So I'm
Well,
being
edit
very
that
No,
out.
clear.
I support everybody's right
Yeah.
to eat the way they want to eat
Yeah.
because it feels good in their body and it operates in their body really, really well. So,
Way to
Yeah.
go, Matt. Put your foot in your mouth.
no,
Super-
I was the one that said like the vegan thing.
Oh, super normal for me.
Yeah.
What?
Talk about veganism.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, moving on. So we talked a little bit about spiritual bypassing. We've talked about I don't know, elitism.
Well, going back to spiritual bypassing, just to kind of go all the way back to that,
Mhm.
Megan was kind of digging into like why people start to go on a spiritual path because they are looking for healing, because they're going through a lot, because they're looking for
connection.
something, a
Yeah.
connection, for healing, for all of that.
Understanding real truth, right? There's lots of
Mhm.
reasons why people seek it, but a lot of those people are still coming from a place where they don't have that in some way, right? And there's some kind of trauma connected to that.
Yeah. You can't run away from that. And I always want to encourage people to remember it's a mind, body, soul connection.
Yes.
And we're meant to be here. We're meant to experience well balanced lives. Um, Even going back, I think, again, you said something about meditating all day. We're not even meant to meditate all day. Like a good meditative practice can be very beautiful to your development, to just your mental well being, but you're not meant to meditate all day either. You're meant to live, you're meant to have relationships, you're meant to be out in the world. Yes, Megan, you need to be out in the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
I go to the
But
gym. Okay.
go to the gym,
I do that.
do all of those things. But we're meant to have relationships. We're meant to like be human beings. We're meant to eat food. We're meant to have meals. We're meant to move our body, go to the gym, go outside, move your body. We're not just meant to be a spiritual wooey wooey person. It's a mind body soul
Have
connection.
to be slightly devil's advocate here for just a second. Because again, coming back to the idea that there's a place for everything, there are yogis, right? And like Buddhist monks and things like that who do spend their life just meditating and not eating and things like that. And they do develop all sorts of very interesting mediumistic type gifts. I'll say gifts like levitation and other kinds of things that you would find in physical phenomena with mediumship. They do tend to develop some of those things. So I do just want to say, like, while the majority of us should be, I would say, living in a human life where we are doing all those things, I do think that's a part of it. I do think that for whatever reason there is a path for certain people, whether that is forced upon them or chosen, I don't know. I can't really speak for them. But there is a path for some people that do that and like can sit and meditate for days at a time or not eat for long spans of time. And they have different things that kind of happen from that, manifest from that. And I just want to say that that is a thing for some people. And that's all.
Well, no, I'm gonna play devil's advocate to your devil's
Yeah.
advocate because
Oh,
I
Oh
okay.
think
shit.
Double
There's
yeah,
a
advocate.
lot
yeah,
of
Yeah.
devils, which this is very
yeah,
low vibe.
that devil number. Okay, I think that it's like if we're looking at that, that's more of like an I don't want to say an extreme life path, but I don't think it's necessarily the commonality for
It's not common.
an everyday
In certain
Joanne.
cultures, it is,
Yeah,
right?
but like
In
an
certain Hindu cultures
mm,
and, Asian cultures and
well, I agree with you,
maybe
but
other
I'm saying for
places.
like the everyday Joanne, it's not
Yeah.
normal because I think sometimes people can use spirituality and meditation for an escapism of this
Yeah.
reality and not spend time in the living. And I've seen that
Hmm.
happen where people don't want to deal with their family or friends or situations and then go into meditation because it feels good to be amongst the spirit world and then they don't
Yeah.
live. So I guess it's all comes back to your why,
Well,
right?
yeah, your choice and also we
Hmm.
can say this with priests and nuns too, right? Like
Yeah.
they have a life that's extreme where they denounce most normal things that people have interactions with and they spend a lot of time praying, which is meditation. They're
Yeah.
meditating and they are connecting with that greater source and that's what their life is. And yes, maybe they also include some of them doing outreach and helping people and that kind of thing. And so I just think, I guess what I'm saying is, again, there's a place for everything. And yes, there are extremes in life.
Hmm.
And yes, there's still a place for those extremes. And yes, do I fit in that? No. Do I want to be more in a place of balance for myself? Yes.
Yeah.
But can I say that that's wrong to do? No.
Can I devil's advocate to you, the devil's
Yeah.
advocate to the devil's advocate?
Yes.
So we would say, like, I just want to just white woman saying hello here to everybody to
You white
maybe,
the whole
I
time?
know, weird. I just, yeah. I think that it's important that, we're talking about specific, other than like maybe the nuns and the priests, right? You don't have to be whatever, but we're talking about some cultural practices
Yeah.
that Megan was referring to. I think that before, if you had any interest in what Megan was just talking about, that it's our responsibility to do a lot of research and respect to those cultures and practices,
Hmm.
that you just don't go in your own house and be like, I'm just going to meditate all day. Like these are people that would travel to these places and work with gurus
Ashrams and
and
Buddhist temples and
yes,
yeah,
they don't just like do
sacred
this in their
spaces.
house. Like this is a total shift in life, and this isn't something that you you just take on by yourself and say, this is the life I'm living by yourself. This is something that you
Some
would
might.
show respect. You would need to
Some people do.
you should
But
show
yeah.
respect to the culture.
But then I go like, but meditation's for everybody. And yeah, there's like specific
Meditation
kinds
is
of
for
meditations that certain like Buddhists have, right? And they teach and they kind of go down the line, right? There's like just like in, let's say witchcraft or whatever, like, or let's say Kabbalah, right? There's people that have spent their time learning and doing things and they teach under that umbrella of that tradition. Whereas like, there's certain things that are like just there for everybody. It may not be the same as other people's exactly how they do it, but I can't really say someone's not free to go sit and meditate in their house if they want to do that either.
But
Like,
what we were talking about was the
yeah,
extreme
yeah,
ism that you were talking about.
right,
And I'm just putting the caveat out there of
yeah,
like cultural appropriation, of being respectful of
hmm,
what you are delving into and being respectful to whatever
yeah.
you
If you're trying
are
to
going
like
into.
imitate a certain culture or imitate a certain tradition, that's one thing. I think that I don't know. I kind of think certain things to do with spirituality are, and I'm not talking about specific things used in certain people's spirituality. I'm talking about spirituality as a whole is for everyone. It's your birthright. So how you find that for yourself is up to you and how your guides guide you there and like
Mhm.
the things you come across and all of that. So yes. See, here's the, again, always bringing in nuance. There's always an extreme. There's always a contrast. There's like, yes, there's issues with people doing things like spiritual bypassing and there's people taking other people's cultures or other people's beliefs and not understanding them fully and trying to implement them and cherry picking different things, right? And then also on the other side of that spectrum, spirituality is for everybody and this connection
Mm-hmm.
is inherently within us and open to everyone. And so there's like these things to consider and to try to make our best choices with.
You know what? I also love another spiritual person. I love the nun who taught the kids how to sing and saved the church. Oh, that's
Huh?
Strack. I'm sorry. It's a Strack.
What?
It's a Strack too. Yeah.
Oh.
No, it's. I think that we have to understand that a lot of people do put in a lot of work into their craft. I'd say
Uh-huh.
just go out and learn from as many people as you can, but go
But
direct.
is that cherry picking?
I
I'm
don't think
like
so. I don't think so. I
is that,
think when you
I
go
don't
to
think so either. But
you go to the cow for the milk rather than going to the
yeah,
store for the milk. You know what I mean? Like if you do want to learn about other people's cultures and practices,
you should be able to learn.
go find the source. Go to directly to source.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
it would mean a lot more to that indigenous culture for you to be like, can you teach me? Right?
That's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be handed
Yeah.
down person to person
Yeah.
within that sphere
But,
so that people don't hurt themselves or do something that they're not really supposed to be doing in
right.
some way, right? And that is why practices have been closed throughout generations for certain reasons, right? And why like certain traditions and things were kept more secret and more, again, person to person and took years and years and years to develop and
Yeah.
train. And really we have that same concept with mediumship but also not at the same time. It's a little bit, but it's one of those lineages that again there's nuance when it comes
Do
to
you
this stuff. There's so
oh
much nuance.
Ooh, question.
What?
Do you feel like, based on your education, your development, that you're somehow connected to the history of development through your teachers? Do you know like
um
a lineage
mhm.
of?
I think so.
I do
I
too.
do think so, and I do think that there's an energy, a thing that sort of mm, you kind of inherit in some way if you
Hmm.
are, and
Yes.
again, an alignment, a like mind, right? So I definitely could say, there's similarity to teachers and their students as far as how they interact or act in
Hmm.
general in the world. I've seen that. I've seen that with teachers that are very egotistical and the way their students act. And I've seen the opposite, with other teachers who are not, and how
Yeah.
they act and teach and all that.
100%. Our students will push you over for a Snickers.
Shut
I'm
up.
That's
just
not
kidding.
true.
They're the nicest people, but I do
Yeah.
feel a little bit more honored to have learned from my mentors who learned from their mentors who studied and were the
I'm one of your
pioneers.
mentors.
I know, but also like who mentored you and mentored you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
almost this gift that's been given that has a respect to it that means something, not just because I'm a
Hmm.
white person trying to go learn mediumship, but essentially honoring the people that sacrificed their
Yeah.
freedoms for mediumship, who
Hmm.
were jailed for mediumship. Like it's almost you become part of this tapestry
Yeah.
or macrame, depending on if you're at Dana's house,
Uh-huh.
of what it is to mean to have something passed along to you, but still leave room for your own experience. Because I think
Yeah.
that, like, in your spirituality, you're going to learn things that maybe your mentors didn't, but that doesn't mean that
Sure.
necessarily that you're the be all end all of it. If that makes
Yeah.
Well, I
sense.
always say we're all the pioneers, right? Like we learn from the pioneers that came from before us,
Hmm.
but
Mhm.
we are the new pioneers.
Hmm.
And that's why a flexible mind and an open mind is so important as we explore, right? Because true
100%.
pioneers have an open mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the things, as you know, Eileen Davies is one of my mentors. She always put into my mind was, sometimes people limit themselves as far as what or how the spirit can move through them. And so to remember there may be things that have not even come about yet that the spirit world can work through us, that we are maybe limiting our minds or ourselves to how they can work through us and manifest into the world because we're comparing to the past or we're comparing to someone else instead of just being open and truly saying, Spirit, I'm here, guide me, lead me, work through me in whatever way you can, and really just sort of handing it over to them with that real trust and surrender.
Yeah, the coolest experiences I've ever had have been directly from spirit, but it's been with the
Yeah.
guidance of my mentors. But
Hmm.
essentially, it was me that did the work and like surrendered and let go.
Yes,
And that's
that makes
been
sense.
like the most coolest experiences, like getting to see somebody's personal heaven. Like that was really touching, and the overwhelming amount of love that no teacher could have explained. Right.
Yeah, it's
So,
experiential.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like also don't discredit that your own soul can learn, I'm going to say that your own soul, no matter what it is and what modality that you're using, your soul is learning at the same time. So just want to leave it
So I have one
there.
last quick question. When we're talking about macrame of the soul, which one is it? Is it the skull
The white
or is
one.
it that one? That's a skull, Megan.
So you've said.
You know what? I look, it's me sad.
So that's what I look like when I wake up.
Yeah. This is love.
So that is.
This is high vibe. This is low vibe.
Maybe it's the
Oh,
opposite.
do you know what's on my arm? On my
Mm-mm.
tattoo? No, you don't know.
I mean, I
Okay.
think I do.
So it's unfortunately my skin eats orange. So this should be much more orange than it is, and it was originally, but yeah, my skin eats it. Anyway, this is a painting called The Dance of Life. Okay. It's by Edvard Munch. And it's something I actually found when I was 18 or 19. I found this painting in a book when I was at Barnes and Noble. And I said, that one, I want that. I want that on my arm. And it spoke to me. And this is far beyond the, way before I ever developed as a medium. But yeah, I always felt a connection to more, and same with this is, the Day of the
Mhm.
Dead skull, right? And like this is about life, it's about celebration of life and death. And so this to me, same thing, this is a couple dancing, and there's a sunset here and there's all these people dancing around them, and this guy is sort of like biting into her neck, or it looks like he's trying to, kind of like
Get
eat
it,
her in
get
some
it, get
way.
it.
And then sorry about my flabby arm here. But I've lost a lot of weight for anyone that doesn't know, and I have some loose skin, so it is what it is. Anyway,
You're beautiful no matter what.
She's gorgeous.
but yeah, so I have this part of it has this woman here, and she looks really sad, right? So she looks like she's gone through some grief or something. She's in all black, and then on this side, there's a woman here. She's in white, and this is tattooed. This is not my skin, FYI. And there's a little flower here growing, and so this is sort of representation of like birth, like life, birth, death, and in between, and the dance of life, right? Like the dancing through life and the things happening around us and the sun setting and all that, and sort of like being in the moment and dancing through life. And so I think that that's sort of okay, Sadie. I think that that's sort of, a part of why we're here, right? Like that's a big part of this sort of example of like that birth, that life, that in between, and all of that. I think that there's beauty in all of it.
100%. You know what's on
I
my
don't know
arm?
what my point was in showing. I kind of lost it along the way as I was explaining
You know what's on
where
my
I was
arm?
going with that.
Psoriasis. Just means I
Oh,
have
I'm sorry
dry
about
skin.
that.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't have psoriasis,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
just wanted to show you my arms. No, that was beautiful, Megan. And can you post pictures for the children's on your Instagrams?
I didn't think about that. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So stay tuned. Go follow.
Yeah.
She's got a rebel heart on Instagram. Maybe she'll give you a little.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
I've got a rebel heart. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's true. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We hope we gave you something to think about. And don't worry about being low vibe. Just be you. Just have a human experience. Dabble into the spiritual as it feels comfortable to you in a way that feels that you're drawn to, that feels right to you. And seek authenticity. What else?
And if you do find that there's areas in your life that you would like to improve or you feel need some kind of time and space to sit with and feel or to process or change, also know that's available to you too, right? So it's not sort of like a let's just accept ourselves as we are and say we can do fucked up shit, but also we can accept the way that we are and also know we can keep growing at the same time. We can love ourselves as we grow and without judgment and be honest, real honest with ourselves without that judgment and keep bettering ourselves for ourselves and for other people.
Yeah, I definitely want to leave this podcast on a really positive note through the quote of Bob Barker: "Spay, neuter your animals." That's all I have.
Mm.
Animals are very spiritual.
I just wanted to say something really awkward.
They are, though. I'm just saying.
No,
Sadie
Yeah.
Sadie
They're
made
pure.
noise. They're
Yes,
very, yeah.
Sadie was like, "Oh, it's almost over."
All right. Until next time.
Sure. Okay. Goodbye.
Get out of here. Super normal.